and study development projects in Nile Basin countries under a 2025 cabinet decision, as well as the preparation of an African investment map to promote Egyptian private sector participation.
Welcome back, our dear viewers. And food security remains one of Africa's most pressing challenges. As the climate shocks, rising prices and the global supply disruptions place pressure on the households across the continent, prolonged drought in some regions and flooding in others, which have reduced the crops yield, increasing the resilience on the imports. More details.
Food security remains one of Africa's most pressing challenges as climate shocks, rising prices and global supply disruptions place pressure on households across the continent. Prolonged droughts in some regions and flooding in others have reduced the crop yields, worsening food shortages and increasing reliance on imports. In response, African governments are turning towards agricultural reform and local production. Efforts include expanding irrigation system, improving access to quality seeds, and supporting smallholder farmers who form the backbone of Africa's food supply. Regional initiatives are also focusing on food storage and cross-border trade to stabilize markets. Analysts say strengthening agriculture is not only a humanitarian priority, but also an economic one by boosting productivity and reducing import dependency. Africa aims to build long-term resilience and protect vulnerable communities from future shocks.
Africa is asserting a stronger presence in the global diplomacy, seeking greater influence in international decision-making. African leaders are calling for fair representation in the global institutions, particularly on issues such as development financing, debt relief, and climate policy.
Africa's digital transformation is accelerating, driven largely by its young and tech-savvy population. Across the continent, millions of Africans are using mobile technology not only to communication, but also for banking, education, and healthcare access. French platforms in particular are reshaping financial inclusion by bringing banking services to communities previously excluded from the formal system. Countries such as Nigeria, Kenya, Rwanda, and Egypt are emerging as innovation hubs, attracting local and international investment. Governments are supporting this shift by expanding broadband infrastructure and launching digital skills programs aimed at preparing youth for the modern job market. Despite this progress, challenges persist: limited internet coverage in rural areas, high data costs, and cybersecurity risks continue to slow expansion. Experts stress that sustained investment, smart regulations, and regional cooperation will be essential to ensure Africa's digital growth translates into real economic opportunities and inclusive development.
On the performance of the economy in Africa, we are very much delighted to be joined over the phone by Dr. Mohamed Ezaby, Professor of International Relations. Dr. Ezaby, good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon to you.
Sir, what are the most significant economic reforms currently implemented across the African continent?
Well, most significant economic reforms currently being implemented across Africa. Key reforms focus on macroeconomic stability, structural adjustments, and integration, fiscal consolidation, and debt management. Improving tax administration, digitalization, space, and implementing preemptive debt restructuring, central bank easing policies as implementation inflation declines, supporting the consumption, also logistics and energy reforms, Africa Freight Rail and port opening to private operators, leading to volume increases, business environment improvement, regulatory reform, transparency, and exciting mechanisms like South Africa removal from the FATF grey list, advancing the African continental free trade area to boost intra-African trade and diversification. These reforms aim to attract private investment, enhance competitiveness, and address debt risk.
Yes, indeed. Sir, how are the fiscal and the monetary reforms helping the African countries manage inflation and the public debt as well?
Well, we can say that fiscal reforms, containment revenue, and debt restructuring, arrived at public debt and narrowing deficits, reducing borrowing needs and interest burdens, monetary tightening in high inflation context, followed by easing as pressures subside, has anchored expectation and supported currency stability. These have driven inflation down significantly, enabling losers monetary policy to boost growth without renting price pressures. Also, debt to GDP ratios are stabilizing or declining in many places, freeing resources for while reducing distress risks.
So, to what extent are these reforms translating into real improvements in the citizens' living standards?
As a matter of fact, progress is mixed and gradual. Growth remains below the 7% threshold, often needed for substantial poverty reduction. So per capita gains are modest. Inflation declines have improving purchasing power, and some reforms supported job creation indirectly. However, poverty number remains high. For example, 468 million in extreme poverty, with growth not yet inclusive enough to significantly reduce inequality or unemployment.
Yes.
Real per capita income is still recovering slowly, and vulnerabilities like climate shocks hinder progress gains. Reform shows promise in stabilizing conditions, but full translation to living standards requires faster, more inclusive implementation.
Yes, sir. Sir, how important is the African continental free trade area in driving the sustainable growth?
Well, African trade area is viewing as a game changer for long-term sustainable growth. It could increase intra-African trade by up to 45% by 2045, boost GDP by 1.2%, and add substantial value through manufacturing, agro-processing, and servicing. It promotes diversification away from raw exports, fosters regional value chains, supports green industrialization, renewable energy investment, and reduce external shocks, volatility. Implementation remain uneven, but effective rollout could provide alternative marks aimed global trade tensions and accelerate structural transformation.
Yes, sir. Sir, actually, how can the African economic balance economic growth with the social protection and the reduction of poverty?
Well, balancing requires integrating progress reforms with inclusive policies, investing in human capital like education, skills, health, expanding social safety nets, promoting job creation in labor-intensive sectors, and ensuring equitable resources distribution, leveraging African Trade Center for the diversification, improving governance for better service delivery and period physical discipline with targeted spending on vulnerable groups can help structural reform. Market flexibility must complement growth to reduce inequality and poverty durably.
Yes. Sir, actually, are the current reform strategies sufficient to address the unemployment, especially among women and youth?
Well, current strategies, environment improvements for African Trade Center, driving trade infrastructure investment help, but are insufficient alone. Youth and female unemployment remains high due to skills mismatches, informal sector dominance, and limited formal job creation. More targeted efforts are needed, vocational training, digital inclusion, gender-sensitive policies. So, without acceleration, millions entering the workforce annually risk persistent joblessness.
Yes. Indeed, Dr. Mohamed Ezaby, our international relations expert, thank you so much for your precious input. Always a pleasure, sir. And with that, our dear viewers, we come to the end of this edition from Africa Today. Till tomorrow with another crew. Many thanks for watching.